We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This is Cheryl from Jajawarong Country.
And welcome everyone to, I think this is episode 61 of the Beyond 90 pod. And Cheryl is not able to be with us this evening, so she's made the dubious decision of giving me the keys. So we'll see how this goes. But luckily, I'll be reined in by the three great football minds that are with me this evening. So we, as usual, have Riley Dobson, Nordic and ACT correspondent Stefan Meebus, and Dale Roots. So thanks to all of you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. This is going to be a time.
It is.
Righty, the cat's away, so the mice will play.
Yes, and as we'll see, what a week to give me the steering wheel as well. The three of you will need to rein me in. You'll know when.
Yeah.
So first, I think we should discuss obviously the thing that we're all looking forward to. The Tildas versus the Republic of Ireland. Very early Wednesday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, and I just want to see what are our thoughts heading into the game? What are we expecting to see from Tony G?
I just feel like he's going to use it as an opportunity to provide caps for some of our younger players and probably use that time to work on strategies that didn't quite work well during the Olympics, but what he wants to build upon for the future. Yeah,
I think Riley's spot on. I think we'll see. Probably. I feel like it'll be one of those 10 subs at halftime kind of games.
Yes.
We do love rolling change. I feel like we could institute just rolling substitutes for this game. Just come off whenever you want, have a drink, go and get a sausage roll from the canteen.
That was making it sound like a pub.
No, but it'll be interesting to see. As you say, I think it'll be nice to see kind of working on stuff that didn't work as well at the Olympics, as Riley said, but also kind of using the new players kind of to the best of their abilities or to their best, positions, especially considering that there's probably going to be a few of the older bodies get a spell. And there's a few younger bodies coming in.
We're missing we don't have Ellie, we don't have Kaya, we don't have Hayley there. So, I mean, Kaya and Hayley's, positions, we do have adequate amount of players who can fill those positions. I feel like it's going to be a really good opportunity to find out who our 6 is going to be going forward. We still don't have a 6. We've lost Ivy, and we really need to work on our back line.
Yeah, I agree. Is KK in this squad or not?
No, she's not.
She's not sighted off Nobby still, unfortunately.
No, I don't think has she had any minutes since at all?
She's just had surgery. So
what? There we go.
Surgery, yeah. So she's definitely not there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
question, then.
That's a gaping big hole we have in the Australian team currently and in the future if we don't find someone soon. But for me, it was really nice to see that Claire Wheeler got a call up. She's someone who's flown under the radar, but when she's played for the likes of Newcastle Jets, she carried that team for a long time.
Yes.
In the midfield. And also, she was a standout for Sydney FC last year. So for her to be called in, that's a hole that she could potentially make her own with some really good performances.
Agreed.
So what else are we?
No LM Mastrantonio in this squad.
Correct.
Yeah.
A great shame. We love a stop and turn pivot in midfield.
Nothing wrong with that.
Even if her Lazio team is not doing so well.
Yeah, I feel like he's very much moving towards the younger players than what he is.
Yeah.
The players that are experienced or who can perform right now. He's got focuses why am I having issues with my speech today? His thought process is elsewhere at the moment.
I was going to say, I agree. I've really enjoyed the coverage from the camp, and it's been really nice seeing the young players out there joining in and having fun. And it's been nice from my point of view as well, seeing Carly Ross back and kicking a ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see her back and running about, as you said. I mean, there's a lot of players who are kind of been, as you said, Stefan, the like fringe players, not necessarily Carly in that regard, but players like Jenna McCormick, Kyrie Kearney Cross, even, you know, the debutantes like Jamila Rankin and you know, Winona Heatley that have been kind of bopping around this season and doing quite well in the dub. So it's good to see them not necessarily get a run, but also kind of get a feel for what the level is going to be like in camp, because it's all well and good to go to a, you know, under 19 or an under 20s tournament or even a training camp. But like when the rubber hits the road, it's a completely different, you know, it's a completely different race really.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned Heatley, Dale, because I thought she was brilliant for Brisbane Roar as a right back. Then I thought she was the best centre back in NPL New South Wales this year. So I'm glad she's gotten good minutes at Vaxio in Sweden as well. So maybe, I mean, I still feel like this might sound a bit mean. Any cap would be potentially a charity cap if she got one, but this whole experience is good for her. So I hope she takes whatever learning she can back to her club sides.
Yeah, I feel like your comment on like the charity cap type situation, it's becoming almost, for me personally, I feel like you used to have to bleed and bust yourself to earn a cap, and this day and age, I just feel like we're in a process of it's just a rite of passage. It just gets handed to you. Like I feel like just looking in, it's not really based on earning it anymore, almost in a way, which is quite sad. But that's my personal opinion, you know. Everyone's different. Everyone's looking in. Yes, we need to look towards the future. But it's just a very, very different way to earn your Australian debut these days.
Yeah. And I mean, like, if you think about years gone by, like Ellie Brush only has 2 caps, and she was like, she still holds the record for most goals by a defender in the W League.
Yeah.
Teresa Plice only has a handful of caps. Again, like just in very talented areas. You know, we had kind of a breadth of talent in terms of central defenders and central defensive midfielders. But yeah, it is interesting, as you say, that we're kind of in this process of, you know, phasing out players that are going into their 30s, and we all know that that's not a great time of life. It's when things start falling apart.
But the question is, though, your 2 top teams in the world, their average ages are 33.
Yeah.
So that's
and a lot of those players, as you say, like the US, take the US for example, they've effectively been playing at a professional level since they were 18 in college. So, but yeah, as you say, age isn't everything, but caps aren't either. That's the moral of the story.
I mean, it does open up questions of why aren't these players that have the experience in positions that we're now lacking? Why are they not getting the call up when they are performing? Like, why are they being ignored? And why are we bringing in those that don't have the experience or up to that level yet? Yes, you know, you can perform well in a W League setting, but if we're very honest and brutal about the situation, the W League is currently a youth development league when you look at it in comparison to what it previously has been. So for me, the glaringly obvious question is, why are we not looking at players who, yes, they may be 29, 30, but, you know, you've still got to focus on your rankings to get into some competitions, and we need to stay in that top 10.
That's a good point as well. I mean, and in saying that, I mean, like we've kind of got like all the chips on the board at this point. We don't have to qualify for the next 2 major tournaments, which is obviously positive.
That is
but
true.
But at the same time, like you don't want to end up like a team that qualifies for its home World Cup and then gets, you know, bounced in the first round. That would be very sad, and I would be annoyed because my tickets would go significantly down in value.
This is very true. We've got to be honest about that.
Yeah. I mean, the 2015 Asian Cup was only good because I paid very little for tickets and they were in good seats and Australia won the tournament. That is the only reason it was fun.
And same Dale, nothing wrong with that viewpoint.
Exactly.
Yes. So I think the one bright spot about, you know, I think the issues we have flagged with this squad, Republic of Ireland are good. They're not the strongest opponent. And as we've covered, it is, you know, the kind of game where you can experiment. And I suppose we're not going to see the scorelines that we saw in those pre-Olympic Games friendlies, one would think. So that's one thing.
I mean, we may not see them as defeats. Just quietly.
Yeah.
the Irish team haven't won since 2020. I've been doing a little bit of a read. I've been reading the entire history of women's football in Ireland. It's thoroughly interesting. But they got thoroughly outplayed against Iceland, which was their last major opponent.
Mhm.
They got dunked on by Germany.
Mhm.
It will be interesting to see how they turn out against us, obviously, because this is a friendly. But you know, they have a knack for giving up bad goals and not scoring the easy ones, and they're also lacking a few players through injury and COVID and things like that. So, as you say, Eric, I think if there's one team that we can afford to make these experimental changes against, then this is probably the one.
So I think moving on now, I'll just briefly cover the Women's World Cup or UEFA qualifiers that happened over the weekend. I mean, 10-0 wins for Norway, France, and someone else I saw.
Who did France play?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So Norway beat Armenia 10-0. France beat Greece 10-0. Let's see. There was also Denmark 7-0 over Malta. Austria 8-1 over Latvia. England 8-0 over North Macedonia. Against like that. The one game I did find interesting was the one between Bosnia-Herzegovina and Montenegro. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Bosnia-Herzegovina versus Montenegro. Montenegro scored, were 2-0 up after 9 minutes. Bosnia-Herzegovina made it 2-2 before the 20-minute mark. Montenegro went back ahead and then held on for the win despite having 2 players sent off in stoppage time. So
I'm surprised that that's a game that's allowed to go ahead. I'm surprised they're not separated in the group stage.
Yes, although the thing that Dale is kind of skirting around, I mean, if we did it like that, the draw would be a lot harder to do, I would have thought.
Yes, that's true. I looked up the playoffs for the last European tournament, this 2022 rather, and Ukraine and Russia both qualified for the playoffs, and they had to be separated at the group stage, at the playoff stage. And as you will eventually read in my yarn, Ireland ended up missing out by basically one result, and they would have gone through and played Northern Ireland in the playoffs, which would have been interesting and fun. And I'm sure not a
and I hate it when the Republic of Ireland lose. So anyway, so moving on. So I think that was basically all the interesting things from the UEFA Cup qualifiers. Now on W League signings. Somebody please talk instead of me, otherwise I will not be able to control myself. Anyone, maybe Stefan, did anything catch your eye from the signings for the dub in the last week?
Not really. Grace Mayer, of course, and Keely Richards for Canberra.
Yep.
Just saw that Perth has just signed up a major international star as well.
They have. I mean, I haven't yet to update the Beyond 90 squads page, but those two sound good.
Yeah. So very pleased about that. A little worried about Canberra. We've only got 6 signings. We've
lost a lot, actually.
Yeah, we have. We've lost a lot, and I'm worried about players wanting to stay near their home with COVID. So
yes.
Players that may have been around last season may be looking to stay closer to home. And but kudos to Vicky Linton. She put together a tremendous squad last year. So just have to have faith that she's going to do the same again this year. And she's made a good striker signing with Alira Toby.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
It would be interesting to see how Toby plays with Heyman as well.
Yes.
They're both fairly, not similar, but both number 9s really. And I think Toby was one of the players that I was really calling for to get a gig when Seamson wasn't scoring at the back end of the season, just because I think she offers something a little different, kind of a lot more off the shoulder, not quite as good with her back to goal, but much more, much quicker, but also doesn't necessarily rely on poaching as much. But yeah, as I said, I think it'll be interesting to see how they go and who they put around her as well. Whether they play a 3-5-2, whether they play, at this stage they have 6 players, so they're not playing any formations, but as I said, I guess that remains to be seen.
Well, I mean, Sydney FC have completely announced their squad and they're solid as always, you know, but you expect nothing less. Melbourne City, I feel like, are very much going through a building phase. Yes, they've got some, you know, some stalwarts there in the terms of Emma Checker and, I mean, and you've got Rebecca Stottback, which is fantastic considering her battle with lymphoma. So, you know, but it's going to take her a little bit to get back into the swing of things. It's not an easy thing what she went through. But at the same time, they've signed a lot of players who haven't played in the W League. You know, it's going to be very interesting to see how they perform. It's not the typical thing you'd see Melbourne City turn out at all, really. And then you've got Perth, who have pretty much signed their entire squad as well. But I feel like they're building something over there.
Yeah, and I think just on those 2 Perth signings, which just reading our own Slack channel, it was Danish international Milef Jans, who is playing for Vitsjo in Sweden, and Kiara Hinson, ex-under-19 US international. We all know about how the US develop players, and she's currently playing in Iceland with Vala Reykjavik. And are they the top team, Stefan?
They are premiers. Yep,
they're
premiers.
Very good.
Yeah.
And that Jans, as you said, like she's, you know, she played for Rosengård only a few years ago, so and won a championship there. So like that's a decent signing, especially like, I mean, they're kind of getting the band back together in a way as well. Like you've got a couple of really good Western Australia signings there in players like Hannah Liari, but you've also got Kim Carroll coming back from the Raw. You've got Morgan Aquino, who was there last year, or who was there previously. So, yeah, are they sneaky finals to contenders? No, because I have said it, and therefore it will not happen. There's a lot of players leaving Wanderers. What's the go, Eric?
They want to win things. Is that what the answer is? Because
the players do, or the Wanderers do?
The players.
Have we got Wanderers? Or have I been living under a rock?
What?
No, keep going.
Sorry. Yeah, the Wanderers have some signings, but I just assumed people would leave the Wanderers because it's the Wanderers. This is the kind of thing I can say when I no longer work for the club. So, back the little bit of news for Canberra that I think I just heard about. They will announce one more signing on Thursday. I'm probably expecting one of the locals that played for them last year.
That's good. And that means that they can play a game.
Yes, legally they can now play a game.
If you start the game with 7, this is good. Onwards and upwards.
Yes.
The point, speaking of players wanting to remain close to home with COVID, I mean, we're not necessarily a men's football podcast, but it is interesting to see that the A-League is potentially looking to move their kickoff back after the W League because of obviously cross-border issues. And it will, I know this will affect the dub, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with Perth being able to play home games because the leader of the DPRWA, Mr. McGowan, has said that families aren't going to be allowed to come home for Christmas. So it'll be interesting to see how they go playing games, whether they'll be playing them in blocks at home, 3-week blocks. I'm not sure, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there for both men and women.
Talk for Perth is that they'll do something similar to last year. So you know how they had to do a bit of a road trip.
Yeah.
They're probably looking at something like that. So, you know, for me, is it completely fair on a club like that? No, not at all. It's a hard slog. But ultimately everyone knew what we're facing. And I know, unlike, you know, some of the other leagues where they're happy to up and move them to just one state, I know that's, you know, the players don't want to do that.
Yeah. No, and that's understandable. I mean, we don't, in both men's or women's codes, we don't really have the financial clout to do that and maintain some kind of semblance of normalcy for a lot of these players. But in both competitions, as you say, I mean, like the AFL's having the grand final in Western Australia, NRL's upped and moved the comp to Queensland. You know, it's just not viable, unfortunately. And I wouldn't wish that on the girls. Like, I mean, it's one of the reasons the Western Waves folded back in the mid 2000s was because they couldn't get enough money to send the team back and forth. And that's more than fair. It's, you know, I mean, the downside is that they have to live in Perth. That's, I think, the biggest thing here. And we feel sorry for them. But in fairness, they are also allowed to go out and drink at the pub, and I do not.
Yeah, I am not. So yeah, I don't feel like a winner at this exact moment
All
in
I want
time.
to do
Dale.
is drink in the street, please.
Man, I just want to go to a cafe and sit by myself like I used to.
Yeah, I just want a pizza in the street, please. I want to see my friends.
Yes.
Oh man, just want that picnic vibe.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
So,
but as you say, interesting that like that we're starting to see the teams take shape. I think it feels a little bit later than it was last year. Maybe it was just because Sydney announced 1,400 players last year. But it does feel like there's a little bit more happening, kind of building up, especially with Wellington as well.
Yep.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see the team that they formulate and how they go in the competition. And I think, they've been a long time coming and they've needed to be added to the competition.
Yeah,
so it's great to see them on board and eliminating that delightful bye that all us players hate.
I hate buys.
Mm.
Also, shout out to whoever put Stoddy on the squads page as having signed from Bulleen. Big fan of the work.
Yes, thanks, Dale. Because I was trying to think, who did she play for last? I saw
Played
that one
Bulleen,
game for Bulleen Lions before lockdown. I'm
good.
like, that's the most recent club. That's how I do it.
Yeah,
very good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a bit of housekeeping, or just things I noted from recent signings. I'm intrigued by Ria Catano to Brisbane Roar. So saw.
Eric has left the chat.
Good if she adjusts as well as Mario Eka did last season. That'll be a good signing. Shout out to Ante Juric for the signing to a scholarship deal of Mary Stanish Floody, partly because she's grown up as a Sydney FC fan, but for me, mostly because he did something I didn't think was possible, signing an NPL New South Wales player that I've never seen play before. So that will be...
How does that work?
How does
she play for?
Football New South Wales Institute reserves. So...
because she's on a scholarship deal.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes. And so that I hope to see, like, on our squads page, she's a midfielder. That is a complete guess. Just because that's the part of the Sydney FC squad with the least numbers. So I feel like she should be a midfielder to retain some sort of balance. I could be wrong though.
It is good. I mean, we do talk about kind of ongoing improvements in quality of facilities. I remember that was one thing when we had Kate Gill on that we did mention, but it is really good to see that like these scholarship deals are becoming available for clubs, and especially with Sydney building that Sky Blue Park or Sky Park or whatever it's going to be called out at Macquarie University. I think that's for both the dub team, the senior team, and also hopefully eventually a girls, for want of a word, NPL team that I would like to see in the future. Hopefully that's a really good kind of facility going forward.
Yeah. And just because I'm the host and I have to mention this, Riley mentioned Melbourne City. Of course, I have to mention their signings. I never thought Melbourne City would be the team to sign all of my favorite players, but here we are. So I am so glad that Darcy Malone has got signed a full W League contract, and apparently they're going to sign the Institute players because Holly McNamara, who is a really promising forward, has joined as well. And just looking at this, they have, I believe, 4 players that have played for Institute at some point, which is not what I expected. And
Who's
I think
18 Keen side for?
Perth Glory.
That's right. Yes.
And
from the fridge into the fire, literally. Sorry.
Yeah.
We do love the fridge.
Yes.
God.
Yeah. And I do love the clenched fist that Aiden Keane seems to have in all of her in-game shots. Long may it continue.
This is very, very me energies.
Yeah.
Every photo, me yelling. The joys of being a goalkeeper.
But yes, and just running. Yep.
Can I just say though, I'm really looking at Melbourne City because obviously they are my club for a long time.
Yeah.
Like obviously we don't have Tegan Micah because she's playing overseas. She signed a contract.
Yeah. For
me, surely Melissa Barbieri is the number one goalkeeper stepping in.
We actually talked about that off mic a few days ago. We were like, when is Barb's going to get a run?
honestly, she is still, like, when you look at all the goalkeepers we have in the W League now, and I'm saying she is a close friend of mine, but everyone knows how brutal I am as a person and a player. She has to start. She's the number one keeper left in Australia now. If she does not start, and if she's not the number one goalkeeper, there is something seriously wrong, because she's just unbelievable still. You watch her at the back end of W League last year, and she pretty much should have potentially been starting most of the season with her performance. Like, she saves you more points than what, as you hear with goalkeepers, she'll save you more points than what she'll give away. So for me, she has to be the number one goalkeeper for Melbourne City this season.
It'd be interesting to see what they do. I mean, she's goalkeeper coach there still.
Yeah.
No, she's not goalkeeper coach.
She was just assistant coach last year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, she's kind of assistant coach, but like not at the same time, if that makes sense. So, but for me, like, it's a no-brainer. But I'm going to be very interested to see what happens there.
Yeah. And also, what an opportunity! What a person for Sally James to learn from as well. So, I love that. That's how I prefer to do it. What I like to see, the experienced keeper and the young keeper. That's really how you should approach it for any squad, really, not just the dub. So, and I think further on to Riley's point, you're right. They need more experience, because if it's more players with 0 or 1 seasons of experience in the W League, I'll leave that. I'll leave that unfinished. Yeah, yes.
Speak to my representative, please.
Yes. Now, I think Stefan's been quiet for a while, so I thought we'd hear his thoughts on the sadly cancelled, although it's not a surprise, NPL Capital Football competition. It it was. I think I've noted one of your notes. Yeah, it did. They got to 17 rounds, which was more than a lot of competitions.
Almost.
But you almost got there. But so I'll keep going. This is really your area, Stefan. So first up, the floor is yours.
All right.
I've got to drop out, guys. I'm really sorry.
Okay. Do you have enough time for your Queen of the Week, Riley?
My Queen of the Week is actually Christine Nan. So she announced her retirement during the week. I've played against her, and she's phenomenal. Someone who I've admired in the W League, and not just the W League, but other leagues. So it's nice to see her. She's got a new pathway that she wants to take, and she's made the call herself, which is really important for players, particularly in the women's game. So she's my Queen of the Week.
Yep. Marissa Lordaning approves of this choice, as do the rest of us. Yes, what Riley's referring to, she's becoming a firefighter. So we applaud that, definitely. And I think, just thinking of other firefighters off the top of my head, Erica Holloway, Caitlin Cooper, and Lena Karmas, I think, have all made that decision as well.
Very well done.
Yeah.
Yes. And Alison Logue, who used to play in the W League in the first 2-3 seasons, she chose to turn into a professional firefighter because of the wages in female football. So she's one of the first ones in the league.
Yeah. Okay. No, well, thanks so much, Riley. I love your synergy, because that was Cheryl's choice as well. And just so, together. And I couldn't pick a better choice in this particular week for Queen of the Week. So thank you so much, Riley Dobson.
No worries, guys. Have a good night.
You too. Bye. All righty, the ACT season. This might take a little while, but hopefully not too long. There's lots to talk about. There's lots of good, positive stuff going on. So let's get to it. So this year, Canberra Croatia backed up their victory last year as being announced premiers on points at the end of 17 rounds. There were 4 rounds short of finals. They also won the Federation Cup, and Belconnen United are the first ever Charity Shield winners for the competition this year, and that's a pre-season comp. So a bit of a trend for the last few years, quite a few years, the top 2, Canberra Croatia and Belconnen, out in front. And I was sort of thinking that this year a third might come up and join them, especially as a certain Julie Dolan medalist became announced for Gungahlin United, but that didn't really happen. And Gungahlin was they came third, but they were 16 points off the off the pace for the top two. So it's still the top two at this stage by a fair margin. The competition within a competition was incredible this year. The position 3 through to 6, you could have taken out the top 2 and the bottom 2 and just had a really good time this year in the Capital Football competition. The positions changed all year, and you could never tell going to one of those games where they're playing each other what the result was going to be. So incredibly entertaining. So that was really fine viewing for all our spectators. And the bottom 2, Tuggeranong and Wagga City, there are also some nice positives coming out of those teams, which we'll talk about when we get to them. But they did undeniably have a large negative goal difference, and it's probably reflective of the squad depth in those 2 squads still. But yeah, still some good things there to talk about. Half the teams this year had new coaches, so and some of them had more than one coach during the season. So that was a story in itself. We saw some new approaches and some new styles on offer, and a bit of a reversal of a trend this year. Quite often we see Canberra-based players who want to play higher leaving the town to go play in New South Wales or elsewhere. But this year we actually had a couple of them coming in, W League calibre players. So we had Julie Dolan medalist Michelle Heyman coming in to Gungahlin United, and Tiana Jaber, who's signed with Newcastle. She came in and played with West Canberra for a while, and then with Belconnen. And we also had players with such qualities such as Emma Stanbury, ex-Canberra United and W League player, and Jen Bissett, who also played with us here in Canberra a few years back. So having them all back in the competition really does help uplift standards. They have a lot to impart around the players around them and their squads, and really helps things. And it was nice to see, got to say, reversing that trend a little bit. I mean, we still had players going to play in New South Wales, but some coming back, so it was good. And before we go into the team of the year, just wanted to mention the goalkeepers in our competition this year. All of them brilliant. So picking the goalkeeper of the year this year was the hardest thing to do. And especially trying to pick between the top 4. So the top 4 I'll mention briefly, but Janet King, Samantha Ems, Sammy Ems from Wagga City, Chloe Lincoln from the Academy, and Christina Esposito from Belconnen all had outstanding years, and the other 4 also outstanding. So well done, you goalkeepers. You're doing great work down here in Canberra. So quickly through the team of the year then. So the hard bits were, as I said, goalkeepers, the defensive line, and the coach of the year. So I'll start with the coach. It was going to take something pretty special to go past Nick Brozenic for his back-to-back victory with Canberra, Croatia. But in my eyes, Michael Zukowski from Belconnen has just pipped him this year for coach of the year. So even though Canberra, Croatia are premiers, I think Michael had a bit more to deal with this year as far as squad turnover, and imposing his own, well, not imposing, encouraging his players to play in the style that suited his beliefs and got the buy-in from the players. And the big thing was that he's got his players incredibly fit and fast. So that's going to, I think, help drive that quality in all the other teams in the league coming down the track in next season, because they'll all look back on what sort of troubles they had trying to deal with the pace the Belconnen plays, and they'll realise that they'll probably need to match that next season. So well done, Michael. So yeah, Nick Brozenic, amazing coach, probably the most tactically astute coach, perhaps Vicky Linton aside in the competition. But Michael, you've edged it for me this season. And Belconnen's got a few players in the team of the year this year. Last year was very heavy on the red and whites, and I've got a few more Belconnen players in there this year just to change things up a bit. So going through the players, Janet King's my keeper. Well done, Janet. West Canberra, amazing shot stopper, and also led to quite a few goals for a team with the big long boots out of a hand, route 1 down the middle of the park, forwards running on and scoring. So really good year. So congratulations. And my reserve
Sorry, Stefan, can I just stop you there? That's something I've told you before. Just would like to point out, Janet King has scored a couple of goals for West Canberra Wanderers reserves in the last few years. I really would love to know how that happened. Did she gather run as an outfield player? I have many questions.
Yeah.
Surely if these were for Wagga, there's some
West
kind
Canberra.
of
Yeah.
West Canberra. There's some kind of rural breeze coming over the mountains.
Yes.
Maybe they have an east-west rotated field. I don't know.
Yes.
There's 1,000 possibilities here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's Janet's first year as NPL keeper as well, NPL 1 keeper. So remarkable achievement. But like I said, all keepers so strong. And the substitute keeper, Samantha Ems from Wagga City. So outstanding, completely fearless, Sammy Ems. So got noticed for the Young Matildas trials and then was selected to take part in the Young Matildas camp. So real big future, very a young player, but you could see that she's right into it. And as I said, no fear. So really good to watch. Moving on to the defensive line. So my left back from last year is the same left back this year, Vanessa Ryan. So from Belconnen, really good on the overlap, really strong defensive work. Great person to have in your team from those points of view. I've got a bit of a cheat for my centre back. It's Sarah Johnson from Belconnen United. It's a bit of a cheat because she played half the year there and half the year in midfield. She played half the year in defence after Karen Clark and Jazz Zabel got injured for a while for Belconnen, but did an outstanding job there. And I think an even better job when she moves forward next to Mickey Thornton in midfield, but outstanding year, couldn't leave her out. And a bit of a smoky one, my right back is Tuggeranong Zoe Terry. So when I looked at right backs in the competition and the most damaging right backs as far as their ability to not only defend, but do those big runs down and join in the attack down the wings and through teams, Zoe Terry was the name that stood out to me. So well done, Zoe, from the team that finished bottom into the team of the year. That's well done. So on the bench for me is Tiana Jaber. So had a fine year as well. Really athletic player, quite versatile as Eric mentioned when I was chatting with Eric about Tiana. Can play in the middle or out wide, and had an interesting year with stints at both West Canberra and Belconnen. So, and other ones who were perhaps unlucky to miss out were Maddie Percival from the Gunners. She had a really good year as well. Moving through into midfield, Talia Backhouse, left half from Belconnen, scored 17 goals. So she had a year away, I think, and has come back and has just blitzed it. So one of the speed machines, again from Belconnen, they had 7 speed machines in the team. I counted them. So really strong year, Talia. Well done. Mickey Thornton in the middle. She was in the team again last year and deservedly so. Is the glue for Belconnen United. Holds them together, gives them so much drive. Really spurs that team on with her leadership and with her ability to be everywhere and do anything. So well done. Krista Hagen from Canberra FC. A bit of a quiet achiever, but so important to that team. Jen Bissett next to her came into the league and had also a really strong year as well. So Jen just missed out on this team. But Krista, well done. Best corner taker, I think, in the league as well. Perhaps next to Leah Carnegie at Belconnen. Really dangerous corners. Erica Pennyfield from Gungahlin is also extremely good in that regard. And out on the right, I had Sasha Grove again this year. So Sasha really steers that Canberra United Academy team around. Really dynamic midfielder. Those runs she makes are amazing. Didn't score quite as many goals from where she was playing this year as we've seen in the past. For example, when she played up front with Hayley Taylor-Young, but still a really strong year. Lovely to see her take the captain's armband when her sister Annie Groves got announced as playing college in the college system in the US for Baltimore. So that was really nice to see. And there's a third Grove coming through the ranks.
I was going to ask you about her because It's a family thing.
Yeah, it is. Looking forward to seeing that happen. I think she's a few years away yet, but yeah, nice to see. So in the front line picks itself really. There's not much you can argue about there. Brittany Palombi, leading goal scorer. Grace Gill, who's the general, the midfield general of the competition, really. Her and Mickey Thornton. That when she comes onto the field, she just makes an enormous difference and is, heads up all the time. She's a move ahead of everyone else. So it's really, really good to see. Still playing really well and inspiring the entire league every year, I have to say, not just her own team, with all the inspirational workout videos that she puts up of herself, the weights and stuff. And
she has Player of the Year award named after her at Canberra, Croatia, for one of the girls' teams, if I'm not mistaken.
Awesome. Yep, awesome. But she's probably doing it for her own side. But I'm sure every player in the league is looking at her doing those pull-ups and things, and saying, right, that's the level we got to be at. So yeah. So
I mean, I'm not even a professional athlete, and I watch that, and I'm just like, I need to go to the gym.
Yeah, yeah, you and me both. Yeah. And Ash Sykes was the other one, second top scorer, incredible year. Had a season where she's given a free roaming role, and she could run left, run right, run in behind, and did it so well. And like Brittany Palombi, you can sort of sense what she's going to do, but you just can't stop her. Even if you know where she's going to go, you cannot stop her. So that's a mark of how good those two are. So. Well done. So on the bench, the bench players I haven't mentioned yet, Ali Cook from Olympics. So she had a fantastic year. She filled in defence to start with, and then when Ella Hemmings and Brittany Fiorese came into the Olympic defence, she was able to step forward into a number 6 role and contribute to the attack. She scored 9 goals too, I think. So incredible year, Ali. And Alex McKenzie is a midfield on the bench for the team of the year from West Canberra. Wouldn't surprise me to see her play in the middle one day. She is able to control the game out from right midfield quite often and is supremely determined and fit, and has a big bearing on how they play. So well done, Alex. You've had a couple of really big years, and we're going to see plenty from you in the future, I know, as well. And Tasmanian Olivia Bomford came into the competition this year, and she's the final bench player for the ACT Team of the Year. Molly Appleton and Tanner Code from Beyond 90 talked her up in a big way when she came.
They did. Oh my, they did.
And she did not disappoint. She's got really terrific control, a nice finish, just a classy player, classy forward. Holds the ball up well, got a delightful eye for a shot. So well done, Olivia. Really, really strong year as well. So that's the Beyond 90 ACT Team of the Year. So I better continue on with the rest of it then. The rules for that were a 9-game minimum. So you had to play half the season or more. So players like Michelle Heyman didn't qualify. A couple other names I wanted to mention though. Renee Junner came in as a young right back from Brindabella Blues into Canberra, Croatia, had a really fine year. I mentioned Jen Bissett, Rhiannon Fensom, again, really incredibly good in the middle for Canberra, Croatia. Chloe Lincoln had the game of the year as a goalkeeper for the academy in their 3-1 win over Canberra, Croatia this year. Stopped everything, so it was just one of those games where everything she tried to do turned to gold. So good on her. A few other Gungahlin players. Jade Brown had a really strong year, made a difference every time she hit the park for Gungahlin in attack, scored a number of goals and is heading off overseas to the college system. I mentioned Erica Pennyfield, Ella Rose Brown, very versatile, looked really good when Diego Iglesias, the coach, dropped her into right fullback to deal with some of the speedy wingers, and then did the job again when she was up front. So terrific. Emma Stanbury was very influential for West Canberra, made a real difference to how they play as well. So just misses out on the team as well. So, all right. So very quickly, if I may, I'll just go through the teams one by one. I won't take long. Firstly, with Canberra Croatia, they really stable squad. They're very tactically astute, and they're the team that builds into the season best. So Nick Broznik's got a really good feel for that. He starts them off a little slowly. It is not worried if they lose a game or two at the start, but has them peaking really well. And they're the team that's most assured of their own systems on the field. So, and that lends them incredible resilience. So if they go a goal or two behind, it doesn't bother them at all. And that's not something you can say of all the teams. And they have the finest leadership group in the league as well. So alongside Grace Gill, you've got Chantel Jones there now. So really experienced senior player who can really help guide the team around as well. Brittany Palombi, 200 gamer Alice Churchill. Well done this year, Alice. Had a fantastic career and still looking great out there at left back. Krista Hagen, and then when you add in the experience of Jen Bissett, that's not a bad leadership group there. After losing to Belconnen in the Charity Shield, they then defeated them 3 times, including the Federation Cup final. So really stamped their authority. And the team that bothered them the most this year was probably the Academy, with an early draw against the Academy and a mid-season loss. And that's the game on synthetic there where Chloe Lincoln stopped everything. So, all right, moving on to Belconnen, who finished second. They had a bit of turnover this year and a new coach to bring into the system. Michael Zukowski is off to NPL 1 next season, and Mitch Parker is taking over. So we wish Mitch all the best. Their edge was their fitness and their speed. Gave them a whole new way to play and to win. So the speedsters that I would not want to be in a race against, Talia Backhouse, Kira Bobbin, Vanessa Ryan, Sarah Johnson, Tiana Jabo, who's a mid-season addition, Michaela Thornton, and Riley Ewan, who is a real find, youngster right in the midfield. So they are all incredibly quick, and the others are not far behind them. And I wondered at times, because they put in so much work on their fitness at the start of the season, whether it actually took a bit of a toll early on. They won that Charity Shield, came into the season on fire. You know, they were playing really well, but then had some losses to defenders to deal with, and Nicole Jalocka also got injured. So I sort of wondered a little bit if perhaps the work they put in also caused a little bit of injury. This forced Sarah Johnson, who came in from, I think, the Stingrays, into the back line.
Yeah, that's right, Stingrays.
Illawarra Stingrays, yep.
Yep.
And she did a fine job there, but I think the team as a whole functioned better when Sarah was able to move back into midfield later on in the season. But I do want to hand out a big well done to Bella Tamaro for coming into the middle of the defence and rising to the challenge there and putting in her best season, I think, by far. So it's really nice to see Alexia Fauna come back into football at the end of the year. So looking forward to your talents and your vision next season. And what else have we got to say there? Leah Carnegie's corners, fantastic. Yeah, that's probably, I think I've talked about everything else. So we'll go move on to Gungahlin.
Yes, the team with the futsal players. Yes, please continue.
Yeah, very settled squad again. A mid-year top draw signing in Michelle Heyman, although she took her time to come into the team, and we learnt later at the end of the season in the Canberra United signing announcement that her hip injury from the end of the W League was actually a bit more serious than everyone thought. So when she came out in about round 10, I think it was, she obviously still looked a class above and was able to turn the game on her own in some cases. But she had some restrictions, I think, and there was some things she couldn't do comfortably, perhaps shooting at certain angles or something. So I think with the Heyman signing, they probably would have liked to have been a bit closer to the top two, but the midfield cohesion, which was the jewel in their crown the last couple of years, just wasn't quite there this year, and they ended up 16 points behind Belconnen. It's a shame, though, that we didn't get to see them have an impact in the finals, because I think they were building right at the end of the season, and their impact could have been considerable. I guess we'll never know. And the coach, Diego Iglesias, terrific coach. Amazing how he's got the team working with their rotation policies and their short passing game. And as Eric said, the amount of futsal a lot of them have played together has really helped in that regard. So the tweaks that he tried, I really liked some of them. They worked quite well. So Erica Pennyfield came out from the wing into midfield and has an enormous work rate there. Really good decision maker. So that was a good change, I thought, for a while. And Ella Rose Brown, as mentioned, came into wing back for a while to help out against speedy attackers. And Elka Itolo, who's heading off to the US college system, I believe, looked good as a number 6 at the back end of the season when Michelle Heyman arrived into the team. But I think they probably lost a bit of cohesion when Tiana Miro went to Olympic after round 3 or 4 and couldn't quite get it to work with Stella DeMarco coming out wide occasionally, then coming back into the middle, and then Natalie DeMarco coming back into the team. And so I think they were building towards something at the end, but we'll have to see next year probably how all that goes now. Hopefully they keep everyone together. So after being equal leaders of the competition in round 3, it was perhaps a little frustrating at times after that. They had games where they dominated the stats but didn't win. And as mentioned, there's some really good seasons there for some of the players who just missed out on the team of the year this year, especially Maddie Percival, centre back, really good, and Jade Brown, scoring 11 goals. On to Academy, Canberra United Academy. They finished 4th, equal on points with Gungahlin. They did manage to take points off the top 2. One of them in particular, a draw and a win versus Canberra, Croatia. They had some high points and some low points. The high points was that game against Croatia, for example. They did have a draw against Tuggeranong, which they nearly lost. They're incredibly hard to play on their home ground at Hawker on the synthetics. So they do a high-tempo passing game, and their mobility makes them a really difficult proposition.
That Hawker pitch is the biggest pitch I've ever played on. It's so big that it has a practice pitch behind it. It's absolutely enormous because it used to be an athletics pitch and then with the pitch in the middle, and then they basically got rid of the athletics track and just made the pitch as wide as an athletics track.
Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely enormous. It's like 120 meters long.
So that's the maximum. That's close to the maximum.
Yeah, I think it's like it's either 115 meters long and like it'd be like 80 meters wide. It's enormous. Ooh. It's basically like 2 like Sunday League pitches. And as somebody who is of Sunday League fitness, I remember we played when I was still playing in Canberra. We had like a training session there during summer, and we had probably 30 people turn up, and we played like 15 on 15, and there was still like far too much space. It's an enormous field. So if they're playing like a running game on that, like they must just run teams into the ground.
Yep, and they did, and they they learned to use that to their benefit too. So they were really hard to play there. So and why not use every advantage? So their highlight was a middle patch in the season when fairly on the season when Vicky Linton returned to them after her break from the W League last year, and they loved playing for Vicky. So they had an amazing run of about 6 games between round 3 and 4 and 8 or so, including that win over Canberra, Croatia. Belconnen eventually applied the brakes to them in around 9, and after that the results were a little bit up and down. But you could really see the impact that being able to play for Vicky Linton had on the girls in the team. So it was great to see. Vicky was not afraid to rotate the squad in and out. So even the oldest, the captain, and Annie Grove and Tara Cannon, with some of the more experienced players, who were sometimes on the bench just for her development remit that she's got with that squad. And it didn't seem to hurt them at all. So she did really well in that regard. Annie Grove was tremendous again for them, and as I said, her scholarship is most welcome news. And I talked about Chloe Lincoln's game, and in the forward line, Anna Hunt in the middle of the park harrying the defence. She's a gun at that. So made a huge impact on their ability to put pressure on their opponents. And she scored 8 goals. And Sophia Christopherson scored 11 goals, slightly wider out in the wing, left wing, quite often. And towards right at the end of the season, we got to see Bessie Ruthmuller play up front. And she looks like a talent to me. And she was really prolific as a goal scorer in reserve. So I'm looking forward to seeing her play next year. Moving on to Olympic, who finished 5th. With Ashley Sykes in attack, they can score freely, but they, like last year, can also still leak a few goals. So I think their for and against was pretty much identical this year again. They had a lot of player turnover, so almost a full 11 or 12 coming into the squad. Nicole Begg took over as coach. She was assistant last year, didn't play this year, but obviously took over with a really strong culture and play from Andrew Woodman the year before, and you could see that culture is still really there. When they go down, they still believe they can win the game, even if they're 2 or 3 goals down. So a lot of resilience there, just terrific. They've only got a couple of goal scorers though. One of them is Ashley Sykes, of course, 21 goals. Her fellow attacker, Anna Vandenbroek, scored 7, and Ali Cook scored 9 from the back of the field, defence in number 6. And virtually, there's daylight then to the next scorer, only in the 1s and 2s. So they'll be looking for some more goal scoring outlets next season. When they had Brittany Fiore's come into the team at centre back, she had a really fine season at centre back, and Ella Hemmings coming back from last year. Ella was in the team, the Beyond 90 team of the year last season, when they played together with Ali Cook in front and, Ash Sykes up top. Really strong spine. And I actually think they get hurt a little bit out wide. I should mention Rachel Hardwick is also in the middle there, really tough as nails midfielder, so hard to get anything past her as well, and Ali Cook. So I think they can get caught out a little bit out wide and leak some goals out there, but they've got Nicole Begg, who's one of the best wide defenders the city has ever seen. So no doubt she'll be looking to impart her wisdom on her wide midfielders and defenders. And I think Tiana Miro was playing out wide in the midfield and probably took a little while to settle in. So this year will be all the better for her now that she knows the players around her and the systems. Be good to see her settling in. West Canberra 6th. There was a bit of drama in the West Canberra camp this year, it's fair to say. They had
anything you're allowed to expand on, or no?
Well, let me just say they had 3 coaches.
Okay. In 17 games.
Over the course of the year. So, one of the coaching changes happened just before the season when Emma Stanbury came in as player coach, and Mark Boyd released the reins and handed them to Emma. So Emma did some really good things there, though. She brought the senior squad all together, the reserves and the firsts, and they had been quite separate before that. And I have to give the team a lot of kudos for, despite some of the dramas that happened in the team this year, they showed a high level of unity and resilience, even when they lost their 2, ex-W League or current W League standard players. Tiana Jaber, when she had a 3-week suspension around the mid-year transfer window, ended up in Belconnen, and Emma Stanbury stepped aside. And they really just kept on keeping on. So well done to the team for that. Very competitive unit. They had a really good, strong mid-season run, which saw them into the final of the Federation Cup, and they pushed Canberra Croatia deep into the second half of that game. They were, I think, 2-1 down and pushing hard, and Canberra Croatia ran over the top of them the last 10 minutes for a 4-1 win. But they certainly had some good moments in the season. They were as low as 7th at one point and as high as 3rd. So that was in round 13. They fell away a bit after that round 13 high mark. They're the only team apart from Canberra Croatia to take up some points off Belconnen. So they had a draw with Belconnen in round 7. And the players who stood out to me, as mentioned, the two Beyond 90 Team of the Year players, Janet King, Alex McKenzie, and Sophia Chavera came in and played as a young striker, and had a great season with 7 goals. Has a flair for the game, knows where to be, knows how to finish. So it's really good to see. Brianna Maguire worked really well with Emma Stanbury in the middle of the park, a real midfield engine. So she really went up a notch this year. So well done, Brianna. And youngster Kilky Letton came on and scored 4 goals early in the season before getting injured. So she's got some promise too. So looking forward to seeing Kilky get better and come into the game again next year. Their backline was a bit unsettled throughout the season, I think it's fair to say. They had troubles working out where to play Captain Sarah Whitfield, whether in the back or in the front. So I think she ended up in the attack at the end of the season. So if that gets settled a bit next year and they get some stability happening in the ranks with the coaching and all that, then hopefully that's good signs for next season, given some of the high points this season. On to Wagga City. So I mentioned a 16-point drop between second and third in this competition. This is another 16-point drop from 6th to 7th. So quite a big drop. But Sam Gray over at Wagga had a lot to deal with as far as injuries and turnover this year. So a bit of a revolving door at times with youngsters from lower grades having to come in and fill in just because of some of the injuries. But some amazing high points too, with a recognition for Piper Lockley, Ava Tuxar and Sammy Ems being looked at by the Young Matildas coaching crew, and Sammy being selected for the camp. So some real recognition. And if Tess Vakari had still been around, she got injured at the end of last season, she would have been another one, I'm sure, in the mix for that camp. So it's really hard for Wagga City. You feel for them because they have to travel to training. Some of them, they live out of town. Then they have to travel to Canberra for away games. So that for young players, that has an impact, I think, come game time, especially if you have to return home the same day for COVID rules. So I was privileged enough to sit amongst their crowd there a few times this season, and they just have a really good feel about the club. So they've got undeniable spirit, and so with all the talent available in their roster, they just need to get some stability, I think, with the it's not easy to do because you're in a university town and there's players coming in and out all the time. But if they can keep the core of those very promising players, and they had some good people coming into midfield with Ashley Holder and Bronte Buick and Kira Lee Cameron to replace a couple of the key midfielders last year, then there are some signs there too that hopefully Sam Gray can have some less injuries next year and get them going again. To support players like Megan Castle, who was up front and scoring 6 goals as quality forward, but sometimes left isolated this year up front. Finally, I'm sorry this has taken a while, Tuggeranong United finished 8th. Just before the season, they lost their long-serving coach of 5 years, Michael Aldered. The president, Stan Mitchell, stepped in for a while as a caretaker coach until Paulo Romero took the reins at the second half of the season. And the team rallied under Paulo, and they could see that they were becoming far more united and working for each other. And they took home a win in round 16 against Wagga City. And their best result was that draw against Academy, which they almost won. So many of the team have been together now for a few years, and there are some good signs. Certainly Sophie Buey's stints in the US have benefited her. She's now, looking for the wide plays coming through. And now that she knows that she's got wide plays coming through, is in the form of their standout right back, Zoe Terry, and also Maddie McGee on the left, who plays at left half. Both willing in attack down either flank, and Sophie's now looking for them to can hold up the ball and distribute, and is being far more effective. So the middle of the park's also got some strength there with Steph Coates, Jackie Freeman, and the Daisley sisters working well there together now. So as I said, they've been together for a while now, so getting some good signs, and a strong centre back addition in the form of Ashley Condon, who had a really good year playing next to Captain Lara Mustaine. So and just finally, Sophie Rolfe in goals. She's came back after some time off and did much better than her goal difference would indicate as well. So one of the fine goalkeepers in the league as well. So that's your ACT wrap. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. It's like I've been watching the league every week. Okay, so just the one thing, my one comment I wanted to make on NPL's ACT, shout out to Michaela Thorne from Belconnen United for combining two things I absolutely love: futsal skills and sleeve tattoos. So
very good.
Yes, she's a former Australian schoolgirls representative, and long may she continue to play, because she is fabulous.
Yep.
I have a feeling that Canberra Olympic defender Brittany Fiorese may be related to Tigers head of technical coaching and former Canberra City player Lino Fiorese.
You could be right, I think.
Yep. Also doing a PhD in biomechanics for para athletes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Had a really good year.
That's been this week's crossover.
I think it is now time for Queens of the Week. So Dale, did you have a queen?
I do have a queen of the week. My queen of the week is Barbara Vodakova from the Czech Republic, the Czech goalkeeper, who managed to keep a full-strength Dutch team to a single goal in the Czechs' 1-1 draw with the Netherlands this week. Was only pipped by a Viviane Miedema goal in the 82nd minute for the draw, but hot tip, I have a feeling the Czech Republic might make the next World Cup. She also signed for PSG this year to replace Christiana Endler, alongside Stephanie Lebay, I believe.
It's good. Great deal. So, Stefan, about your queen?
Yeah, I was delighted to see the Matildas just having a lot of fun in their camp in the lead up for the Republic of Ireland game. So we saw a picture, for example, where Charlie Grant and Carly Rosbacken were sharing clearly quite a big joke in one of the shots. So we'll post that on the podcast page. And also, I don't know if everyone got to see the rock, paper, scissors drills that they were running, where they were just having a ball with doing rock, paper, scissors, and then little mini sprinting skills sets, and just having a good time. So it's just nice to see that having that sort of enjoyment while you're playing is an Aussie thing, and it's great to see the coaching team recognise that it's so important that you enjoy it while you're under the stresses of a national level of competition. So I just was delighted. So yeah, Fun Loving Tillies is my queen of the weeks.
That is the podcast name sorted. So thank you, Stefan.
Yep, lovely. Thank you, delivering once again. And my queens. So thanks to Nick Amies for making sure I didn't forget about this. We're going all the way to Uzbekistan for the opening round of the AFC Asian Cup qualifiers, which will also double up as World Cup qualifiers. It was Nepal and the Philippines playing in Uzbekistan for some reason. The Philippines were losing 1-0 in the dying minutes before Tane Anis scored in the 90th minute and Camille Wilson scored in the 92nd minute. So the Philippines, we're still alive thanks to a 2-1 victory.
That's what we want to see.
That's what we play Hong Kong on Friday. Yeah, I think it's on Friday the 24th. A win will take us to the Asian Cup and keep our dreams of going to Australia alive. So shout out to you, Tane Anis and Camille Wilson.
Imagine if the Philippines make the World Cup, what the tournament support is going to be like.
Yes, and they then the draw needs to be rigged by whatever means necessary so that they play at least one game in Western Sydney. Yeah. You have to do this. So, yes, and I think that is it. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And also thanks to Cheryl for setting this up as always, and thanks to Riley for her contributions earlier. And and of course, above all else, thanks to all of you for listening. So we will see you next time, and maybe even for our halftime show on Australia Island, if we can get that up and running, because we're planning to do something halftime there. But yes, that's all. So once again, thanks so much, Stefan and Dale.